Hi and welcome back. So, in the last video, we removed the old binding, so now we have to make the new one. We start off by cutting a long strip of cherry wood, and then we're just taking some sandpaper and making it square and neat and nice, and removing any marks from the saw, and also making sure the sides of the piece of wood is also square and not just the face of the wood. And then we're just using a bandsaw and splitting it in two, because I need a piece for each side of the neck, basically. And here I'm using just a piece of sandpaper and I'm shaping the neck of the guitar. And then I'm just putting some wood glue down on the side of the fretboard, on the edge of the actual guitar neck and the fretboard. And then I'm using my finger and just smearing it out, and trying to get an even coat. And then I'm just putting the piece of cherry wood down. And since I made sure to make this fit perfectly beforehand, I'm just I don't really need to put a bunch of clamps or anything like that, so I'm just taking some masking tape and I'm putting it in place. And you don't need to have a lot of clamps if you've made sure everything fits perfectly. So that's why I'm not using the clamps. And then once the glue has dried, I just remove all the tape. Now you can see that the pieces are a bit oversized, and I did that on purpose because it's I don't really have any means of making them thinner than this at the moment. I know they also look a little bit wonky, but that's I'm gonna fix that now, so you'll see that it all turns out great. So I'm taking my small plane and I'm just planing down the sides, making sure everything gets down to the right depth. And I know it looks a bit wonky, but I'm really gonna fix it. You're not gonna notice once I'm done. I'm also super fast at planing. This is definitely not sped up at all. So you can see I'm taking it down to the right size, where the meats of the wood they're meeting very well. And then I'm using my knife that only has an edge on one side to clean up and cut away the piece of wood so it's flush with the rosewood, basically. So that when you play the guitar, it really doesn't, you really can't feel it. Now the reason why I can do this is basically because the frets don't go over the binding. If you have a guitar that has binding that goes over the neck, you have to spend more time making them perfect so you can put them in underneath the frets. And then I'm just doing basically the same thing on the end. I'm just taking a piece of wood and I'm gluing it down. And then I'm just taking a piece of masking tape and I'm holding it in place. I really think you should use beautiful wood if you can. And cherry wood is definitely nicer than white plastic binding. And that's why I decided to use it. And then, while that's drying, I decided that I was going to take and make a new trash rod cover. So I'm putting some tape down on a piece of plastic, and I'm just drawing out the size of the old one. I really don't want to use it because it's too square, and it also it just looks kind of cheap to me. So I decided that hey, I'm gonna take a piece of plastic and I'm just gonna draw my own design. I want something a little bit more delicate and more organic feeling. So I just went through a roll of masking tape trying to design a good truss rod cover that felt original and inspiring, but I don't know, in the end I didn't feel like I did that. I think I ended up with something more Gibson-like. actually wanted, but maybe I'll have more inspiration another time. And then I'm just using my sander, and I'm basically just roughing it out here. It's a very good machine if you want to sand things and rough things out. So if you don't have a spindle sander, I recommend you getting one, because it's an awesome tool to have. And then once I'm pleased with the shape, I'm finalizing it with a bunch of different files, making sure I get the design I really want. I didn't show drilling that hole, but it was basically just a 3mm bit, and I just made the hole where I had marked it with a pencil earlier, and there was not much to it. And once the glue dried, I'm just cutting this piece down just like I did with the sides. First roughing it, being super fast with the plane. I decided to redo the pocket end a bit from earlier video and just put an edge on it to make it transition better from the neck into the body and make it look more like they were made to fit each other. And you can see just by a couple of minutes of sanding it really looks much better. And so I'm just trying to blend the different edges and make everything look smooth and nice and perfect. And then I moved on to the control plate cover. I'm poking some holes so that the bit won't wander once I start drilling. It's a very important thing to do, because you really don't want to drill a hole somewhere where you don't want a hole. That can become a disaster later on. And then I'm just I'm drilling pilot holes, making sure the bit falls out. Thought I edited that part out, but nope, I did not. Brilliant. And then I'm just screwing it down, just using some screws, and I'm screwing it down, and I'm failing. I'm totally failing at screwing, which is, I don't know, sort of sad. God. Anyway, I screw it down because I want to make a perfect fit for it. I'm going to create a lip for this one to sit so it is inside the guitar and not above it, just like it had when it was a right-handed guitar, like the cover I made in an earlier video to cover up the old cavity. So I'm just screwing it down so I can take my knife, which you will see in a second here. It's the same knife as I used earlier. It has just an edge on one side. And the reason is because I can use that knife to press up against the plastic and then score a line into the lacquer. And here you can see the knife. And basically I'm just putting it up against, and then I'm just scoring. And I don't put a lot of pressure or anything like that. But I'm just making a line, because later when I come in with the router can go up to that line, and it will make a very neat and tight fitting cavity. Now make sure you don't make it too tight, because otherwise we'll never get the control plate out if you need to, which can be equally as difficult and hard for you as making it too big, so try to make it perfect. Well, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.